Assalamu alaikum everyone. So I am just adding the PDF of what we're going to be doing today, inshallah. You guys can download it from there. So I'll upload two files. One is the unsolved version and the other the solved one, which will basically be the same file that I'll be using. Okay. Once we're done with the video, इसमें मेरे सारे solutions आ जाएंगे, and then you guys can download that as well. Sir, is a bowl a cone or a cylinder? It's neither a cone nor a cylinder. It's actually a sphere, a hemisphere. वालेकुम सलाम क्या हाल है? Will you be streaming P1 papers? Yes, I will, but that I will be doing towards the end of the session. You know, not right now. Okay, so let's start, shall we? I'd appreciate if you guys haven't liked the stream, you like the stream, and if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so we are starting with mensuration. Now, a couple of things about mensuration. You have to memorize all the formulas. There is no getting away from memorizing the formulas. Okay, it's very important. Yes, there are some formulas that will be given to you guys, so you don't have to memorize those. We'll find out as we go along. Okay, we're doing paper 2. All right, and the questions that I've taken out for today are actually the difficult questions. Okay, they're not all very easy. I've sort of handpicked a few difficult questions. And the thing about mensuration is, आप जितनी भी प्रैक्टिस कर लेना इसकी, जब तक आप पास पेपर क्वेश्चंस नहीं सॉल्व करेंगे, सही आपकी तैयारी नहीं होगी. Okay. And just because you're unable to solve past paper questions, so let's say you're done with the concepts and now you're unable to solve past paper questions, that does not mean that you need to go back and revise everything. Just keep on solving past paper questions, see what it is that you're unable to solve, see what's the correct way to solve it, and then eventually you will find that momentum and you will then be able to solve more and more questions, inshallah. Okay, so here's a question. This is from May June 2011, paper 2, variant 1. Okay, so chale, let's start. It says a cylindrical candle has a height of 5 centimeter. A is the center of the top of the candle and B is the center of the base of the candle. Okay, so here's the candle. A is the center of the top, B is the center of the base. The wick runs from B through A and extends 12 millimeters above A. So dekho, every time in a mensuration question, not every time, but occasionally, there will be some catches. Okay, catches in the sense something that the examiner will test you. Okay, and it will do it not very explicitly. Okay, so like for example, you have 5 centimeter and you have 12 millimeter above. So immediately there is a test that's related to conversion. Okay, so you students who forget to convert will obviously get this question wrong. Then it says how many of these candles can be made using 2 meters length of wick. Now you can see now there's another unit of measurement, that's meter. So this is something that you have to be extremely careful of. Make sure that you underline it or highlight it so that you know this is something important and you don't want to end up ignoring it. So first of all, let's see what is the amount of wick that's being used. So from A to B, you can see that we have 5 centimeter. Okay, and then you have another 12 millimeter. Okay, so plus 12 millimeter. So the thing is, you can't add 5 and 12. So what you need to do is you need to convert 12 millimeter to centimeter. So that means 5 plus 1.2 centimeter. Okay, so 12 divided by 10 is equals to 1.2 centimeter. So that's equal to what? That's equal to 6.2 centimeter. Okay, so that means the total wick that's being used in one candle is equal to what? Is equal to 6.2 centimeter. Okay. Now the question says how many of these candles can be made using 2 meters of wick. So one wick is basically equal to what? 6.2 centimeter. Now, how many wicks can we make using 2 meters? Now, 2 meters, please remember, 2 meters को convert करना होगा centimeter में, and how do you do that? You do that by simply multiplying by 100. Okay, you have to make sure that you know your conversions extremely well. So this is equal to what? This is equal to 200 centimeter. Now cross multiply. अब क्रॉस मल्टीप्लाई करके आपने बस आंखें बंद करके आंसर नहीं लिख देना. 200 डिवाइड बाई 6.2 जब आप करेंगे, सो यू गेट 32.25. नाउ द थिंग इज वी आर मेकिंग कैंडल्स, सो या तो एक पूरी कैंडल बनेगी या नहीं बनेगी. सो 32.25. नाउ ऑब्वियसली वी कांट मेक 32.25 कैंडल्स. ओके, सो that means we need to round this off. So 32.25 means that the amount of complete candles that you can make is 32. Okay, even if this was 32.8 or 32.9 for that matter, then also it would have been 32. Why? Because we're not just using the basic concept of rounding off, that looking at the value, seeing what it's closer to, and just brainlessly rounding it off. You have to understand the situation that the amount of wick that you have is just enough for 32.25. Okay, so the complete candles that you can make are 32. So there you go. This was the first part, fairly easy question. Okay, now let's do part B. Part B says the wick is in the form of a cylinder. Okay, so this wick that you're looking at, according to the question, is in the form of a cylinder. So let me bring it over here. And with mensuration, always look at the marks of the question. The marks will tell you the amount of working that you have to do. So this is a 3-mark question. That means, you know, there's a decent amount of working that's required in this question. It says here, the volume of the wick inside the candle from A to B is 0.2 centimeter cube. So that means this part of the wick has basically volume, okay, only the part that's inside the candle. You can see how it's given that to you in bold letters. All right, so let's highlight that. Calculate the radius of the wick, give your answer in millimeters. Now, since this is a cylinder, so let's underline that as well. It's a cylindrical shape. So volume equals to what? Volume equals to pi r square h. We know that the volume is 0.2. Pi क्या है नहीं पता, in fact पता है, we'll just let it be as it is. The radius क्या है, that's something we don't know. What's the height? The height is 5 centimeter. Again, be very careful that you don't end up falling for the trap that the examiner is trying to set up for you by giving you a different unit. Okay, so this is centimeter, this is also centimeter, so far we're good. Now let's find out r square. Now if you find out r square is going to be equal to 0.2 over 5 pi. And then of course, in order to calculate the value of r, you will take the square root of this. Now when you do take the square root of this, let's see what you get. 0.2 divided by 5 pi kya sabse pehle to, then you take the square root of it. So here's what you get. You get r is equals to 0.1128 centimeter. Now notice that the question is asking you to give your answer in millimeters. So here we have centimeter. How do we convert it into millimeters? Just multiply it by 10. So that's what I'm doing right now. So the radius is equal to 1.128, which means that it's equal to 1.13 centimeter. And there you go. That's it. That's your final answer. Okay. Now let's do part 2. Let's see what part 2 says. Part 2 says one candle was made by pouring candle wax into a cylindrical mold so that it surrounded the wick. Okay. The mold has an internal radius of 1.9 centimeter. Calculate the volume of wax required to make this candle. Okay, now if you read the question once, you'll realize that there's a lot of information. Okay, it's a lot of information to absorb just by reading it, and it's just reading it once is not enough. Okay, so let's read it again. So one candle was made by pouring candle wax into a cylindrical mold so that it surrounded the wick. Okay, so imagine this. Around the wick it's empty. Okay, now what you're doing is you're pouring candle wax into it. All right. The mold has an internal radius of 1.9 centimeter. Okay. Calculate the volume of candle wax that's required to make this candle. Okay. Now, first of all, if you want to calculate the candle wax, what you'll have to do is you'll have to find out the volume of the mold, and from it minus the volume of the wick. Okay. जो भी मोल्ड की वॉल्यूम होगी उसमें से आपने विक की वॉल्यूम माइनस करेंगे तो फिर आपके पास कैंडल वैक्स आएगा. कैसे? रीड द क्वेश्चन. वन कैंडल वाज मेड बाय pouring कैंडल वैक्स इनटू अ cylindrical mold so that it surrounded the wick. The mold has an internal radius of 1.9 centimeter. Okay, so think of it this way, that you have a cylindrical container, okay, similar to the one that you have right here, and this cylindrical container has an internal radius of 1.9 centimeter. Okay, this internal radius is 1.9 centimeter. Now inside this mold you also have the wick. Okay, so inside this you also have the wick, and around it is where you're pouring all the wax. Okay, so that means, or you can think of it this way, that the entire volume of the mold is basically equal to the amount of volume of the wax plus the wick. Okay, now let's work this out. Wax is equal to mold, which means pi into 1.9 square times the height, which is 5, minus 0.2. Why minus 0.2? Because that's the volume of the wick. Now let's calculate the volume of the wax, and I'm not looking at the questions right now. That's because as soon as I'm done with this, then I'll take your questions. Okay, so mold की volume आ गई, उसमें से minus किया 0.2. So here we have 56.5 centimeter cube, and there you go. That's your final answer. Okay, now let me have a look at your questions. Okay, so everything seems well. So can you explain B part 1 again? B part 1. Yeah, sure. So B part 1 में देखो आपको wick की volume दी हुई है, which is 0.2, and you need to find out the radius. Okay, now this wick that you're looking at is cylindrical in shape. You know what the height is, you know what the volume is. Just use the formula for calculating the volume of cylinder and just figure it out. That's it. Sir, minus 2 क्यों किया? Okay, so minus 2 इसलिए क्या है? देखो, ये एक मोल्ड है, ठीक है. इस मोल्ड में आप वैक्स पोर कर रहे हैं, ओके, एंड दैट्स हाउ यूर कंप्लीटिंग इट. ऑलराइट, सो इफ यू थिंक अबाउट इट, वैक्स की जो वॉल्यूम होगी वो होगी मोल्ड माइनस द विक. और यू कैन थिंक ऑफ इट दिस वे कि दिस मोल्ड इज बेसिकली मेड आउट ऑफ टू थिंग्स. नंबर वन is the wax, so the mold is basically equal to the wax plus the wick. Okay, ये दोनों चीज़ें मिला के आपका मोल्ड बन रहा है. सो हमें क्या चाहिए? वी जस्ट नीड टू फाइंड आउट द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द वैक्स. सो वैक्स इक्वल्स टू व्हाट? वैक्स इज इक्वल्स टू मोल्ड माइनस द विक. सो wasn't the volume of the wick 1.3? Nope, volume of the wick is 1.13. तो बेटा that's the radius of the wick. Okay, all right, now here's part B. How many of these candles can be made using 3 liters of candle wax? Now notice there's yet another conversion in this question, okay, and that's this 3 liters. So 3 liters कितने centimeter cube होगा? For that you need to know that 1 liter equals to what? 1 liter equals to 1000 centimeter cube. That means 3 liters will be equal to 3000 centimeter cube. Okay, now all these conversions will not be given to you, so make sure that you memorize them very well. So one candle takes up how many centimeter cubes? How many centimeter cube? 56.5. How many candles will you be able to make using 3000? Cross multiply. So 3000 divided by 56.5, that gives you 53.09. So the actual value of x is 53.09, but obviously we have to, since this is a physical object, you can only make one complete object, not half of it or quarter of it. So 53 is going to be your answer. Okay. All right, now here comes part C. Part C says one of these candles is placed on a rectangular piece of wrapping paper. The paper is wrapped around the candle so that it covers the outside, and there is an extra 1 centimeter for overlap. Okay, so that means आपने सिर्फ candle को cover नहीं करना. So if you look at the candle from head on, so that means the paper that you're going to use should be enough to cover it outside. Okay, to cover the outside, and there should be a 1 centimeter overlap. Okay, so think of it this way, that this is your candle and now you're wrapping it up. Okay, so here it's just enough to cover it, and then you need 1 centimeter extra. तो ये इतना मुश्किल सवाल है नहीं जितना ये डायग्राम देख के और इतनी इन्फॉर्मेशन देख के लग रहा है. It's actually fairly easy. Why? Because if you want to find out the length of the paper that's required, what will that be equal to? अब अगर आपने पूरी कैंडल को कवर करना है, so for example I have the cylindrical object over here, okay, this one. I hope you guys can see it clearly. Yeah, so here it is. Okay, now imagine that this is a candle. Now if I want to cover this candle, that means I need to cover this area. Okay, अब ये एक पूरा circle हो गया, and then I need an extra 1 centimeter. So altogether what will that be equal to? So from the starting point and all the way back to the starting point, that's equal to what? That's equal to the circumference of the circle. So that means the length of the paper is actually equal to what? The length of the paper is equal to the circumference. Okay, and whatever the circumference is, in the end, we'll just add the 1 extra centimeter that we need, okay, to wrap one candle. Now, let's go back. This mold has an internal radius of 1.9 centimeter, okay. So that means if you want to calculate the circumference, which is 2 pi r, so that's going to be 2 pi into 1.9. Remember, it's the mold which you're wrapping in paper, okay, so which has radius 1.9 centimeter. Plus the 1 centimeter, which is that you require for overlap. So let's work this out. 2 pi into 1.9, 2 pi into 1.9 plus 1. So that's equal to what? That's equal to 12.9 centimeter. And there you go. 12.9 centimeter. That's it. That's your final answer. Now, sir, can we complete whole IGCSE Math syllabus in 1 month? Okay, I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm afraid you can't. Okay. Sir, why not curved surface area of the cylinder? Okay, so the thing is, we're not asked to find out the area of the paper that's required. Okay, you're not asked to find out the area of the paper that's required. You're only asked to find out the length. Okay, आपने निकालना है कि कितनी लेंथ आपको चाहिए, एरिया नहीं निकालना आपने. अगर एरिया चाहिए होता तो फिर हम वही करते कि we would have calculated the curved surface area of the cylinder and then added. Well, in that case, the question would have been structured differently. Again, listen, read the question carefully. For those of you who are saying, okay, why won't we use the surface area? We are not asked to calculate the area of the paper that's required. We're only asked to calculate the length that's required. Okay, so can you solve question number 9, November 2022 mensuration? Yeah, I think I do have that planned today. I think I do have that. I remember taking that out. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So I will do this. Don't worry. Okay. So Ramzan kaise ja rahe hain? Pretty good. Pretty good. What about you? So let's do an even more difficult question. Okay. Ye is ek acha sawal hai. Let's do this. Let's see what it says. So this question says here, a fuel tank delivers fuel in a cylindrical container of length 9.5 meter and radius 0.8 meter. Okay. Here it is. After several deliveries, the fuel remaining in the container is shown in the diagram. Okay, so that means बहुत सारी deliveries करने के बाद ऐसे कुछ हालात हैं. AB is horizontal. Alright, so this is horizontal. O is the center of the circular cross section and AOB equals to 90 degrees. Okay, perfect. Calculate the curved surface area of the container that is in contact with the fuel. Okay, now here's a question for you guys. If we take apart a cylinder, what do we get? We get a rectangle. ठीक है? Now, have a look at this. एक cylinder को अगर आप खोलोगे ना, तो वो एक rectangle बनेगा. ठीक है? So this is a cool app. It will help you visualize the nets. और nets में ये बहुत काम आती है. It's called Shapes. It's available on the iPad. I don't know if it's available on Android, but yeah, do check it out. So I'm going to open the cylinder up and notice what happens. As I open this, notice what happens to the curved surface area. The curved surface area becomes what? The curved surface area becomes a rectangle. Okay, and it's not just के curved surface area पूरा एक rectangle बन रहा है. Any part of the curved surface area, if you open it up and if you lay it out, will become a rectangle. ठीक है? Now, keeping that in mind, keeping what I just said in mind, let's have a look at what we have over here. So it says calculate the curved surface area that is in contact with the water. अब curved surface area को if we sort of lay it out, okay, and this is what I'm talking about, this area. Imagine that there is a part of a cylinder, okay, the curved surface part, and we cut it out, okay, we cut it out and we lay it flat on a horizontal surface. Now, when you lay it flat on a horizontal surface, what do you expect to get? You will get a rectangle. Okay. I hope ये बात समझ आ रही है आप लोगों को कि imagine करें कि ये सिलेंडर है, ठीक है, मैंने इसका कुछ पार्ट ऑफ द सरफेस एरिया अलग किया, ठीक है, और उसको एक हॉरिजॉन्टल सरफेस पे रखा और उसको फ्लैट कर दिया. तो द सेकंड आई फ्लैटन इट आउट, व्हाट डू यू एक्सपेक्ट टू गेट? यू विल गेट अ रेक्टेंगल. ऑलराइट, सो अगेन आई रियली होप एवरीवन अंडरस्टैंड्स व्हाट आई जस्ट सेड. Acha, which question is this? This is from October-November 2013, paper 2, variant 1. I have attached this worksheet, okay? Just check it out. You'll find it in the description. I've attached it. Just download it from there, okay? Now, अब ये rectangle तो बन गया, सही है, but the question is that what will be the dimensions of this rectangle? Now, if you think about it, as far as the length of this rectangle is concerned, the length of the rectangle will be equal to the height of the cylinder, okay? So that means this length that you're looking at will be equal to 9.5 centimeter a meter, 9.5 meter, okay? Now, the thing is, we need to find out what this length is going to be, okay? Now, how do I find out this length? Well, if you think about it, this length, okay, let me redraw it. This length, जो मैं red से outline कर रहा हूँ, this length is actually what? This length is an arc length, okay? Now, if I take this length and draw it over here, you will notice that it's the arc length of the sector AOP. So that means if I can somehow find out the arc length of the sector AOP, that should be equal to this length. Okay, so this is the arc length of AOP. So again, imagine this. In fact, let's use this. So imagine that I draw 2 points, okay, on the cylinder, one over here and one over here, okay, and I cut this part out. Imagine that it's not made out of plastic. Imagine it's just made out of paper, okay, or cardboard. So I cut this part out and I lay it flat on a horizontal surface. तो पहली बात तो ये है कि वो एक rectangle बन जाएगा, okay. The other thing is that one length of the rectangle will be equal to the arc length of the circle, okay, of the sector actually, arc length of the sector, and the other length would be equal to the height of the cylinder, okay. So height of the cylinder is pretty straightforward, we know that. Now the question is, how do we find out the arc length? Do we have enough information to do that? Yes, we do. How? 90 upon 360 into 2 into pi into 0.8, okay. So if you work this out, the arc length turns out to be 90 divided by 360 into 2 pi into 0.8. So this is equal to 1.25. Now this length is 1.25. All right, we already have 9.5. So all we have to do now is 1.25 into 9.5 and use the answer key so that you don't end up rounding it off too soon. So into 9.5 gives us 11.93. So we'll lock it at 11.9 meters square. Okay, now this was a 2-mark question, so marks देख के आपको लगेगा कि इतना मुश्किल नहीं है, but like drawing this conclusion that what the two lengths are going to be of this rectangle is the tricky part. Now, any questions? Walaikum salam. You'll find this worksheet in the description, fellas. I said that at the very beginning of the stream. Khair, if you've joined now, I'll say it again. You'll find this worksheet at the beginning of the stream. Won't the line AB be the width of the rectangle? Won't the line AB? No. It's not that. Dekho. It's we have to calculate the curved surface area of the container that's in contact with the water. Okay? We have to calculate the curved surface area. Okay. So I'll explain this again. Dekho. Imagine this. Imagine that you cut out this part, okay, and you lay it flat on, in fact, let me give you an example. So here's a paper. Okay, अब ये मैं ज़रा थोड़ा improvise कर रहा हूँ. So yeah. Sir, can you upload the easy part of the worksheet? Okay, so this is only the difficult worksheet. Okay, I'm afraid I don't have the easy part. Okay, so yeah. Sorry about that. So ये एक छोटी सी improvisation attempt है. Okay, so here it is. So imagine this. This is the curved surface area that is in contact with the water. Okay, this paper. Now take a good look at this. All right. So first of all, understand this, that if I take this away, okay, so right now it's curved, but if I flatten it out, what do you get? You get a rectangle. Okay, number one. Number two, let's have a look at the dimensions of this rectangle. So here it is. Yeah, I'll hold it here so you guys can see it. So one dimension is pretty clear. That is, the height of the cylinder is actually equal to the length of the rectangle. Okay. Now what about the other length? What about this length right here? So imagine that this length over here actually wraps around the cylinder here. Okay. So if it wraps around the cylinder over here, तो अब वो confusion clear हो जाना चाहिए कि ये जो है आपका ये वाली length curved, ये वाली length arc length क्यों है? क्योंकि again, if you take it apart, you'll realize that this is the arc length of the sector. Okay, which if you flatten out, like I said, becomes a rectangle. Okay, now इससे ज़्यादा आसान, frankly speaking, मैं नहीं बना सकता. So I really hope that it's clear now. Okay. Sir, when to neglect the base of the cylinder in composite figures? Okay, I'll come to that. Okay, I'll come to that when you have to neglect. Okay. All right. Then it says calculate the volume of fuel remaining in the container. Okay. Now, how will you calculate the volume of fuel that's remaining in the container? Now, first of all, if you look at the shape that's being formed, now do excuse my drawing. If you look at the shape that's being formed, okay, and I'm only talking about the shaded region, you will realize कि ये actually क्या है? ये actually एक uniform solid है. Okay, like I said, my drawing is not up to the mark, but yeah, you guys get the point hopefully. Okay, so this is basically a uniform solid. Okay, sort of like a prism, not actually a prism, but sort of like a prism. Okay, prism की definition पे ये नहीं बैठेगा क्योंकि prism के end side पे polygon होना चाहिए, and this is not a polygon. Okay, but it obeys the properties of a prism. All right, so since this is a uniform solid, any volume of a uniform solid is calculated through this formula. So by the way, what exactly is a uniform solid? So every prism is a uniform solid. All right, so for example, take this. Okay, this is a prism. Why is this a prism? That's because if you start slicing it, so let's say I'm holding it like this. Okay, so if I start slicing it, every time I would get the same shape over and over again, and that shape would actually be this triangle over here. Okay, that's why we call it a prism as well as a uniform solid. So remember this, every prism is a uniform solid, but not every uniform solid is a prism. Like for example, cylinder is a uniform solid, but it's not a prism. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर आप एक cylinder को लेते हैं, and if you start slicing this cylinder, then every time you'd get the same shape over and over again, and that shape would be this circle. That is why the volume of a cylinder is actually equal to what? Pi r square h. Pi r square, as you can see, is the area of this circle. Okay, and height is the height of the cylinder. Okay, now any uniform solid, the volume of any uniform solid can be worked out using the following formula. Area of cross section, okay, area of cross section multiplied by the length. Now the thing is, cross section क्या है? अच्छा, अब मैं अपनी drawing की effort कम और यही diagram ले लेता हूँ. So cross section is basically this part. Okay, so if you ignore the rest of the shape and just focus on the shaded region, now the shaded part is actually a complete solid. Okay, so और उसका जो cross section होगा वो ये होगा. So हमने जो volume निकालनी है ना, हमने इस shape की निकालनी है. ठीक है, अब ये जो shape है ये एक uniform solid है. ठीक है, like I said, because if you start slicing this shape, every time you'd get the same thing over and over again. But the real question is, what exactly or how exactly will I find out the area of cross section? Well, area of cross section over here is actually the area of segment. ठीक है, area of cross section निकालने के लिए you will actually have to calculate the area of segment. Now the question is, how will you calculate the area of segment? Okay, so let's go back. Remember, ये उसका front view है. ठीक है, this is what it will look like from the front. Okay, so this is the part that's in water. All right, here is O, here is A, and here is B, and here is 0.8, and this is 90 degrees. So if I want to calculate the area of segment, okay, this shaded region. How will I do that? How will I calculate the area of shaded region? So we've done questions like this in mensuration, in 2D mensuration as well, and that is we will simply work out the area of sector, okay, area of sector minus the area of triangle, okay, और फिर हम उसको length से multiply कर लेंगे, which is 9.5. So what is the area of sector? In fact, how will I calculate the area of sector? 90 upon 360 into pi r square, that means 0.8 squared, minus the area of triangle. अब area of triangle निकालने के लिए, since the two lengths have a 90-degree angle in between, so that means one could be the base and the other could be the height. So this would give me the area of cross section, which is the area of segment, which is the area of sector minus the area of triangle, and this will multiply by 9.5. Okay, now let's work this out. 90 divided by 360 into pi into 0.8 squared minus 0.5 into 0.8 into 0.8 into 9.5. And there you go. You now have the final answer, which is equal to 1.735. So 1.74 कर लेते हैं हम इसको meter cube. Now meter cube देने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. This is good enough. Okay. Now, before I do the next one, take a good look at it. Let me know if you have any questions, and let me take a look at your questions as well. मैं ज़रा इसको double check कर लूँ. Okay, all is well. 1.71 नहीं है, 1.74 है. Area of triangle minus area of sector. Okay, so can you do one of those mensuration questions in WHA? What does that mean? Do we have to learn mensuration formulas for add math? Yes, you do. You do. Okay, because you never know कौन सा shape आ जाए add maths में. So make sure you learn the formulas well. Okay. Now, part 3. Part 3 says calculate the volume remaining as a percentage of the volume of the whole container. Okay, so as far as the volume remaining is concerned, we've just worked that out. Okay, what is that equal to? That's equal to 1.74 divided by the volume of the whole container. So if you want to calculate the volume of the whole container, that's going to be pi r square into h, and height is 9.5. And since you want this in percentage, so you multiply it by 100. So the answer that I just worked out, so I'm going to use the answer key here, into pi into 0.8 square into 9.5, I mean divided by all of that into 100. So the answer is 9.08%. Okay, and there you go. That's it. That's your answer. Now, as always, take a good look at it. Take a good look at what I've done. Let me know if you have any questions. For rectangle area, we just have to use 9.5 for rectangle area. Rectangle area 9.5 into 1.25. Yeah. Are you based in Lahore and Karachi? Well, where do you think? Okay, so I've read your question. Let's see if a question like that comes along the way. If it comes along the way, brilliant, I'll solve it. If it doesn't, well, you'll have to wait. अच्छा अभी सवाल ख़त्म नहीं हुआ, by the way. You still have 2 parts left to this question. So let's see what it says. It says the fuel is pumped through a cylindrical pipe of radius 4.5 centimeter. Okay. At a rate of 300 centimeter per second. Calculate the volume pumped in 1 second. अच्छा ये जो time वाले questions होते हैं ना, they're not as complicated as it sounds. Okay. Now what you need to do is you need to see what the pipe will look like if, let's say, you pause the whole process, okay, or if let's say you break it down into seconds. अगर मैं 1 second में देखूं तो 1 second में basically the amount of water that will pass through will have a height of 300 centimeter. Why? Because that's what the rate is. Every rate, if let's say you make a point, okay, if let's say you make a point, if let's say you make 2 points on a cylindrical pipe, okay. Now the amount of seconds, and let's say the 2 points are 300 centimeters apart. Okay, I'm just telling you what this basically means. Now the amount of time it will take for water to travel from point A to point B, which happen to be 300 centimeter apart, is basically 1 second. That is what 300 centimeter per second means. Okay, that in 1 second, this is the distance that the water travels. Okay, so that means this is the height of the water per second. And what's the radius? The radius, as you can see, is 4.5. So if you want to calculate the volume, just use the volume formula, which is pi r square into h. So pi r square, pi into 4.5 square into 300. Let's work this out. So pi into 4.5 squared into 300. So that gives us 6075 pi, okay, which is equal to 19,085 centimeter cube. And there you go. That's your answer. Part 2. Part 2 says calculate the time taken to pump 25,000 liters of fuel. Give your answer correct to the nearest minute. Okay, so 25,000 liters of fuel को सबसे पहले तो हम convert कर लेते हैं किसमें? Centimeter cube में. Okay, why? Because the volume that we just worked out is in centimeter cube. So 25,000 into 1,000 is equal to what? Is equal to, well, I'll write it in standard form. So it's going to be 2.5 into 10 to the power 7. Okay, 25,000 into 1,000, 2.5 into 10 to the power 7 centimeter cube. Okay, now in 1 second, this pumps a total of 19,085 centimeter cube. Now we want to pump how much? We want to pump 2.5 into 10 to the power 7 centimeter cube. How long is that going to take? So that's why I've written a question mark over there. So let's divide this by 19085. Okay, so you get 1309, but since the question is asking you to give your answer correct to the nearest minute, so 1309 is obviously second, so you divide it by 60, so you get a total of 22 minutes. So basically ये आपके पास जो actual value आ रही है वो आ रही है 21.8, which is equal to 22 minutes. Okay, and there you go. That's it. That's your answer. 21.8. Now, let's see if you guys have any questions. Why into 1000? Okay, so into 1000 because it's liters and we have to convert it into centimeter cube. Yes, I am based in Karachi. Okay, 21.8 are which you will round it off to 22. All right. Okay. Now let me pick another question to solve. Okay, so there's this question that I wanted to solve with you guys. Yeah, this one. Okay, this is an IGCSE question. All right. It's from October-November 2021, paper 4, variant 3. Now, just because it's an IGCSE question doesn't mean that it's not relevant for O-level students, okay? It's the same concept. Now, let's take a look at this question, see what it says, and let's solve it. So it says here, the diagram shows a prism, okay? So the second you see a prism से आपको सारी prism की properties याद आनी चाहिए, okay? How do you calculate the volume of a prism? Area of cross section multiplied by length. Okay, how do you calculate the total surface area? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a formula for calculating total surface area of a prism as well. Okay, make sure you note it down. It will save you a lot of time, and if you don't know it already. Okay, so it says here the cross section of a prism is a trapezium. So the question is very kind in a way that it has already told you what the cross section is. You don't need to work it out yourself. With CD parallel to AB and AC equals to BD. Okay, so that's great. AC equals to BD. AB equals to 10 centimeters, CD equals to 4 centimeter, and the height of the trapezium you can see is 5 centimeters. So that means this length right here will also be 5 centimeter. Okay, doesn't matter where you draw it, height is 5. The volume of the prism is 525 centimeter cube. Okay, the prism is made of iron. 1 centimeter cube of iron has a mass of 7.8 grams. Calculate the mass of the prism. Give your answer in kilograms. Okay, now, as you can see, 1 centimeter cube has a mass of 7.8 grams. Now this prism right here has a volume of 525 centimeter cube. What will be its mass? We don't know. Just cross multiply 525 into 7.8, and there you go. You have 4095. Except 4095, I just realized, so I almost fell for that trap. 4095 is in grams. I need to divide by 1000. So that gives me 4.095. So there you go. 4.095 kg is the final answer. Okay. Calculate the length of the prism. Okay, and this is a 3-mark question. 3-mark question ka matlab hai there's a decent amount of working that's required. So first of all, the volume of this prism will basically be equal to the area of cross section multiplied by the length. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly copy this and bring it over here. Copy, paste. Okay, now if I want to calculate the length of the prism, that basically means this length right here. Okay, length of the prism basically means that this length right here. This is what we have to calculate. So we have the volume. Okay, we can work out the area of cross section, and through that we will be able to find out what the length is. Now let's focus on the cross section. We know that it's a trapezium. Okay, so that means if I want to work out the area of cross section, all I need to do is half into sum of parallel sides. And what are the sum of parallel sides? 10 plus 4 into the height of the trapezium, which is the same as the height of the prism. That's 5 multiplied by the length, and this should give me the volume of this prism, which is equal to 525. All right, not according to me, but according to the question. It's given in the question over here that this prism has a volume of 525. Okay, now let's work this out. 10 into 4 is 14. 14 into 5 is 70. 70 upon 2 is 35. So 35L equals to 525. It's not a paper 1 question, but you know, it was easy, so I just worked it out mentally. 525 divided by 35, so you have the length, which is equal to 15 centimeter. And there you go. That's it. That's your final answer. And if you think about it, itna bhi koi mushkil nahi hai ye sawal. Normally, the thing is, we make mensuration questions difficult. They're not actually that difficult, given that you know the formulas well and given that you can distinguish one shape from the other. Sir, into significant figure, the answer to, okay, I don't know what you guys are, I don't know what that means. Cross section is the shape on the side. Sir, is cross section the same as the base area? Okay, now I don't personally like that formula where you calculate the volume of prism using base area times height. No, I don't prefer that. Okay, so I have a few prisms over here to help you understand the concept. So this will be called a hexagonal prism. Okay, why will this be called a hexagonal prism? Because you can see that it's the cross section that is a hexagon. So if I want to calculate the volume of this prism, what I'll do is I'll calculate the area of cross section. Cross section is the shape that you will get over and over again if you start slicing it. Okay, so what will I get over and over again if I put this shape like this and if I start slicing it? So if I start slicing it, I will get this hexagon right here over and over again. Okay, so I'll work out the area of this cross section, okay, and multiply it by the length, which is basically this distance here. Okay, and that's how you can calculate the volume of a prism. And there's another prism that I have. I just used it. Where did I keep it? Yeah, here. So this is a triangular base prism. Why do we call it a triangular base prism? Because it has a triangular cross section. So if I hold it like this and if I slice it over and over again, as I mentioned earlier, you will get the same shape over and over again, and that same shape would basically be this triangle right here. Okay, and that is why if you want to work out the volume of this prism, so you'll find out the area of this triangle, which is the area of cross section multiplied by this length right here. Okay, so I hope that helps. All right, now this question hasn't ended. Now we have to calculate the total surface area of the prism. Sir, in kg, shouldn't it be in two significant figures? Okay, the thing is, this is the exact answer. 4.095 ke aage piche kuch nahi hai, so we will not round it off. It's only non-exact answers that are rounded off. Sir, what about the surface area of the prism? Okay, yeah, I'm coming to that. Let's calculate the surface area of the prism. So remember this formula for calculating the surface area of the prism. It will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of khari as well. So one way to do it is that you can actually break the shape down, count all the faces, calculate their area and sum it up. Okay, लेकिन इसमें chances of errors आते हैं, if I'm honest. Okay, एक calculation आपने गड़बड़ कर दी and you know that's it. You're not entirely done, but you know you will lose a certain amount of marks. So just remember this formula: 2c plus pl. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. P is the area of the prism. L is the area of the prism. Okay, so 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, so 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2c plus p. L is the area of the prism. Okay, what does that mean? 2 C is basically representing the area of cross section. Okay, और आप इसको अपने वो भी अपने numbers अपने letters भी दे सकते हो. You can call it 2A if you want, where A is representing the area of cross section. Okay, P is representing the perimeter of cross section. Okay, and L is the same as before, that is the length. Okay, now let's have a look at this prism one more time. And as far as the area of cross section is concerned, we have that. As far as the length is concerned, we have that. The only thing that we don't have is actually the perimeter of cross section. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find out the perimeter of cross section. Now we have this length 4, okay, and we have this length over here, which is 10. So if I can somehow find out any one length, DB या AC में से कोई भी एक अगर मैं निकालूं, so that will do the job. Why? Because they're both equal. Not because they look equal, because it's mentioned in the question that they're equal. Okay, so how about I draw this perpendicular line over here? So what is this perpendicular line going to be? It's going to be 5 centimeter. Why 5? Because it's given in the question that the height of this trapezium is 5 centimeter. Now if somehow I can calculate what this length is, I should then be able to calculate AC. Now can I calculate this length? Yes, I can very easily. वो कैसे? Let me show you. So ये नीचे वाली 4 हो गई क्योंकि ये rectangle बन गया. Okay, now what you can do is 10 में से 4 minus करो, that's 6. So 10 minus 4, that's equal to 6. That means these two lengths together are 6 and divided by 2. So what do you get? You get 3 centimeter. So that means this length right here is 3 centimeter. Now you can work out AC very easily. How? By simply doing 3 squared plus 5 squared. So you will find out AC, which is equal to square root of 25 plus 9. So that's 34. So there you go. AC आ गई किसके? Square root of 34 के. Now this is not equal to the perimeter of cross section. Okay, now we can find out the perimeter of cross section. How? By basically first adding the 4 and 10 and now adding 2 ACs, that means 2 times root 34. This will give you the perimeter of cross section. Okay, now let's work this out first. 4 plus 10 plus square root of 34. अभी मैं इसको round off इसलिए नहीं कर रहा because ये final answer नहीं है. So ये approximately आ रही है 25.66. Okay, now that we have everything, we have the area of cross section, which is 35. We have the perimeter of cross section, which is 25.66. We have the length from before. We worked out the length. Yeah, it's 15. All we have to do now is just plug it in the formula. So 2 times 35 plus 25.66 into 15. Okay, there you go. Into 15 plus 70. So your answer is 454.92. 454.92. जिसको हम round off करके क्या कर देंगे? 455 centimeter square. 455. And there you go. That's it. Job done. Sir, can you please make a video on AdMath's differentiation rates of change? Yes, AdMath's videos are in the pipeline, don't worry. I'm Batman. Sir, solved worksheet. Yes, I will give you guys the solved worksheet, don't worry. Can you elaborate upon how and why this formula works? Okay, I was hoping no one was going to ask me that, but chalo. अगर आपने पूछ लिया तो मैं बता देता हूँ. So basically, here's what we do. So take this prism for example. Okay. It's a good thing that you asked. It's important to see where the formulas are coming from. उससे memorize कम करना पड़ता है. You can just figure it out there and then. So basically, when we do 2 times of C, what we actually end up doing is we end up calculating the surface area of this shape, okay, and the surface area of this face actually, this face and this face, okay. तो ये तो हमारे 2C से cover हो गए. Now, when we calculate the perimeter of the cross section, so that means we now have the length, this length, okay, this length, and we have this length. Up here, when we multiply the sum of these 3 lengths by the length of the prism, what happens is, since it's the sum, that means what you get as a result is basically the sum of the areas of the 3 faces. कौन से 3 faces? 1, 2, 3. क्योंकि देखो individually तरीका क्या था कि let's say ये A है, ये B है, ये C है. Okay, A into the length of the prism, that will give you the area of this face. Okay, and then B into the length of the prism, that would give you the area of this face. And then C into the length of the prism, that would give you the area of this face. So instead of doing A into L plus B into L plus C into L, what we've done is we've calculated A plus B plus C, which is the perimeter of the cross section, multiplied by the length. Okay, so I hope समझ आ गई होगी अब. Okay, now here's part 4. Part 4 says, in a mathematically similar prism, the height of the trapezium is 10 centimeter. Calculate the volume of the prism. Okay, so this is a 3-mark question. All right, let's see what we can do. So it's talking about similar surfaces or similar shapes. So immediately the one thing that should come to mind is this formula. V1 upon V2 is equal to L1 upon L2, the whole thing cubed. Okay, ये लाजमी ज़हन में आना चाहिए. So now what we do is V1 upon 525. Okay, so where V1 is basically the volume of this prism. Okay, इसको हम V1 कह रहे हैं. Alright, और इसी की लेंथ को हम क्या करें, इसी की लेंथ को हम 10 ले रहे हैं. So V1 upon 525 equals to 10 upon 5, the whole thing cubed. Now why 5? Okay, so the reason why we're taking 5 is because we were given the height of the trapezium 10, okay, of the other geometrically similar prism. And if you're given the height, that means for this shape also you have to take the height. Okay, you can't do that. You take height of one shape and you take the length of the other. Okay, apples with apples and oranges with oranges. Remember. Okay, so I'll explain this again. V1 is volume of one shape. V2 is the volume of the other similar shape. L1 is length of one shape. L2 is the length of the other similar shape. So we have this. The shape that we have has volume 525 and the height of the trapezium is 5. The shape that we need to find the volume of is V1. And the height of the trapezium is 10 centimeter. Okay, so let's work this out. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 को cube करते हैं, 8 into 525. So you have 4,200 centimeter cube. Okay. Now here's part B. Now part B is more of a limits of accuracy question. Okay. Why? Let me show you. So it says a cuboid measures 10 centimeter by 4 centimeter by 6 centimeter. Each side is measured correct to the nearest centimeter. Complete the inequality for the volume V of this cuboid. So यहाँ पे आएगा upper bound and here we will have the lower bound. Okay. Now, if you want to calculate the upper bound of the volume, you will not do the following. You will not calculate the volume first and then just add 0.5 to it. Okay, the examiner आपको 3 marks ये करने की नहीं देगा कि आप पहले volume निकालें और फिर आप end में उसमें 0.5 add कर दें. नहीं. Instead, what you need to do is you need to take the maximum possible lengths in order to calculate the upper bound of the volume. So all these lengths are rounded off correct to the nearest centimeter. Nearest centimeter का मतलब 1 centimeter. तो 1 को हम divide by 2 करेंगे, so we can find out what it is that we need to add in order to get the upper bound, and the same value you will subtract in order to get the lower bound. So 10.5 add किया, 0.5 add किया और 0.5 minus किया. 4 है, 4 में भी हम 0.5 add करेंगे, so you'll get 4.5. हम 0.5 subtract करेंगे, so you get 3.5. Okay, I have a video on limits of accuracy. देख लें आप लोग, उससे आपको समझ आ जाएगा limits of accuracy concept. It's fairly simple, and the questions are all very similar to each other. Now, if you want to calculate the upper bound, you will obviously take the upper bound of the lengths. Okay, so if you work this out, 10.5 into 4.5 into 6.5, that gives you 307.125 centimeter cube. And just like that, if you want to calculate the lower bound of the lengths, you will take a lower bound of the volume, you will take the lower bound of the lengths as well. So 9.5 into 3.5 into 5.5. So that gives you 182.875. अच्छा ये कौन बताएगा that why did I not round off these answers? Why am I writing all the decimal places there are? Why am I not rounding it off? Yes, this video will be uploaded afterwards, don't worry. Why 5? Sir, Zanomatic says write as many significant figures as you can. You are saying to round off. बेटा पेपर के शुरू में लिखा हुआ है that give all the non-exact answers correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, ये तो कोई ढकी छुपी बात नहीं है. And there has been a debate about this. I emailed Cambridge about the exact same issue, and they said that candidates are expected to write their answers correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, so that is for the candidates. Okay, ऐसा नहीं है. You have to give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, I don't know what Sir Zen says. Okay, I can't comment on that. But you have to give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. It's written on every question paper. Let me show you. Let me pull out any question paper over here. So these instructions are for you. Okay, give non-exact numerical answers correct to 3 significant figures or 1 decimal place for angles in degrees unless a different level of accuracy is specified in the question. So that's why you, I mean, and these instructions are obviously for you. Okay, I mean, who else has to answer all the questions, and who else has to use a black or a blue pen? So these instructions are for you. So many significant. Okay, so I'll tell you one thing. Okay, about the significant figures, I'll tell you guys one thing which is important. If you worked out an answer, okay, which is not your final answer, but you're going to be using it to get to the final answer, and within the same part. So let's say there's part A of a question in which you've worked out the height, and now you're using the height to get to the volume. Okay, so that height you will not round off. That height you will take it up to 3-4 significant figures. Okay, so then when you're giving your final answer, your answer is not too off from the acceptable range. Okay, and then you'll round off the final answer. Okay, so well, it's pretty black and white. All right, it's pretty black and white about significant figures. It says here, give non-exact numerical answers correct to 3 significant figures or 1 decimal place. Maybe I'll make a video on it because a lot of students have asked me this question, so I'll make a video on it. All right, soon. When starting ad maths, will we have mensuration in paper 1 or 2? Beta, ad maths में mensuration कब से आने लगा? I think you really need to solve past papers. Ad math में mensuration नहीं आता, वो differentiation में सवाल आता है, where you have to calculate the volume and area. Okay. Examiner checks the final answer in 3 significant figures and then he will convert your answer to. Okay, no. ऐसा नहीं है. All right. I'll share that email as well with you guys that I got. Okay, from an examiner, and I'll also make a video on it. Okay. Now let's get to work. So here is another question from IGCSE. So I found this question interesting. That's why we're going to solve it. And obviously it's slightly difficult as well. Okay. So it says here, the diagram shows a rectangular channel that carries water to a storage tank. The width of the channel is 12 centimeter. Okay. In summer, the water in the channel is 3 centimeters deep and flows at a rate of 4 centimeter per second. Okay. So in summer, the situation looks like this. So ये आपका एक cuboid है. Okay, let's join these vertices. Okay, there you go. So in summer, what happens is that the water has a depth of 3 centimeter. Okay, and it is flowing at a rate of 4 centimeter. That means in 1 second the water travels 4 centimeter. Okay, तो आप समझें कि 1 सेकंड का एक तरह से एक पिक्चर है, ठीक है, एक स्क्रीनशॉट है. आप एक तरह से समझें कि 1 सेकंड में दिस इज व्हाट द वाटर लुक्स लाइक. ओके, where it has a length of 4 centimeter, a width of 4 centimeter, length of 12 centimeter, and height of 3 centimeter. Why? Because it's given in the question. 12 is given in the question. Okay, that's obviously not going to change. The depth is given in the question and it's flowing at a rate of 4 centimeter per second. Okay, show that 518,400 centimeter cube of water flows into the storage tank in 1 hour. Okay, now, so in 1 second, let's see what goes on in 1 second. The amount of volume that flows from this rectangular channel is 3 into 12 into 4, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 144 centimeter cube. Now, if you want to find out how much water flows in 1 hour, all you need to do is multiply it by 60. Okay, why? Because, sorry, not multiply it by 60, actually multiply it by 60 and 60. So in short, just multiply it by 3600. Okay, 3600 seconds. So this is 14,000 centimeter cube per second, you can say, into 3600 gives you 518,400 centimeter cube in 1 hour. Okay, so there you go. You get 2 marks for that, which is a pretty good deal. Then it says in winter, the water channel is 5 centimeter deep. Okay, and flows at a rate of 18 centimeter per second. So that means अब winter में क्या हुआ? अब winter में यही चीज़ जो है वो 5 centimeter deep हो गई. Obviously the one thing that cannot change is the width of the channel. Okay, that is not changing as per the weather. That's still going to be 12 centimeter. The height, however, has changed to 5 centimeter. Okay, and the width, you can say, is now 18 centimeter. Again, not according to me, according to the question. And now the question says calculate the percentage. Whoops, sorry. Now the question says calculate the percentage increase from the summer to the winter in the volume of water that flows into the storage tank in 1 hour. Okay, now let's calculate the new volume. Now for the new volume, we'll do 5 into 12 into 18, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 1080. Now if you want to calculate the percentage increase or the percentage change, there's just one formula to do it, and that is new minus old upon old into 100. So new minus old ka matlab 1080 minus old, which is 144. Okay, divide by the old value, which is 144, and multiply it by 100. Now if you work this out, and if you work it out correctly, you get 650% as your final answer. Okay. Okay, so the reason why I didn't round it off in the previous question is because it was an exact value. Okay, the decimal places stopped after 3. That's why I didn't round it off. Okay, yeah, so the stream will be till abhi ka time ho raha hai 11:30 or 12 max. Okay, क्यों आप लोगों को नींद आ रही है? Do you guys stay up till Seri or do you sleep? Okay, chale, while you guys answer that, I'm going to do part C. So it says here the storage tank is a vertical cylinder with radius r. अच्छा, अब क्या हो रहा है? अब जिस storage tank में ये जा रहा है, that is actually a vertical cylinder with radius r. So let's draw a cylinder here. Okay, and let's connect the cylinder. Okay, this looks off. Let's use the same color. Now, this is the cylinder that has radius r. We don't know what that is, but what you do know is that once this water from the channel reaches the cylinder, cylinder की जो height है उसमें 4 millimeter का increase आता है. Okay, read the question. You'll find out what it says. So it says here, when 518,400 centimeter cube of water flows into the storage tank, the depth of the water increases by 4 millimeter. Okay, so the depth of the water increases by 4 millimeter. So immediately there's a catch in this question. Now, what is the volume of this water? This is 518,400. So again, it's just a matter of plugging in the appropriate formula. Okay, and then don't forget at the end that you have to give your answer in meters. And this 4 is not actually 4 meters, it's 4 millimeters. So first things first, 4 millimeter को हम convert कर लेते हैं into centimeter. That's 0.4 centimeter, which is actually equal to the height of the cylinder. Okay, so pi r square h gives us the volume. So that means pi into r square into 0.4 is equal to what? Is equal to 518,400. Now if you work out r square, that's going to be 518,400 over 0.4 pi. Okay, so let's work this out. 518,400 divided by 0.4 pi. So I'm looking at a certain value. Okay, it's significant. It's pretty big. Okay, so let's take the square root of it. So r turns out to be 642.28. Now we have to give an answer correct to in meters. Okay, so I need to divide this by 100. So that means 6.42 meters is the final answer. 6.42 meters is the final answer. And there you go. That's the end of this question. Sir, CI sir pe hain, jagna padta hai. Yeah. Sir, question is saying 1 hour. कहाँ पे 1 hour? Okay, I think आपने शायद message देर से किया. Yeah, so I fixed that into 3,600 कर लिया. Sir, आज मॉक था वो भी ऐड मैथ का. Okay. All right. I hope you did well in it. Okay. So let's do one more question. Okay. एक question किसी ने suggest किया था. I think it was this one. Yeah, October, November 2022, paper 2, variant 2. So I think I'm going to do this question, okay, and we'll call it a day. Sir, please tell this part again. Okay, I will. So what's happened is that this amount of water has been poured into a cylinder, and as a result, the height changed by 4 millimeter. Okay, so that means this is now the volume of the cylinder, which is equal to pi r square h. Height, as you know, is 4 millimeter. The only thing that you need to find out is the radius. So just use the formula. That's it. Pi r square h equals to 518,400. All right, just not cross multiply, but just divide r, and you'll have the answer. Should we attempt IGCSE earlies as well? Not like the entire paper, but attempt questions of probability. I would strongly suggest that. IGC has some really challenging questions on probability. Solve some questions on mensuration, of course, transformation. Not the entire paper, unless if like you're done with everything and now you have nothing to do, then I would suggest you do it. Otherwise, don't. Okay, you'll just be wasting your time. Okay, now, so this is from October, November 2022, paper 2, variant 2. Okay, in fact, it's the most recent paper there is. Okay, ignoring the February, March session. So it says here, the diagram shows a wooden bowl. It is made in the shape of a large hemisphere with a small hemisphere removed from the center. Okay, so I don't have a hemisphere over here, but yeah, actually I do have a hemisphere over here. Okay, so जो bowl आप देख रहे हैं, ये basically a sphere है, ठीक है? If you take it apart, we now have a hemisphere. So this is your bowl, except that इसकी thickness कोई ना होने के बराबर है. I'll bring it closer to the camera. Okay, इसकी thickness ना होने के बराबर है. The bowl that we have in the question has like a significant amount of thickness. In fact, it's 2 centimeter thick to be precise. Okay. Now what you need to do is you need to calculate the total surface area of the bowl. Now if this is the bowl and I want to calculate the total surface area, that means I need to find out the inner area. Okay, and from it, and in that I need to add the outer area, and not only that, then I need to add the area of the rim. Okay, ये rim का भी area मुझे add करना है. Okay, so this area, all right, this bottom area, and this area. Okay, now the best way to think about surface area is this, and this is particularly useful when calculating the surface area of a composite solid. That imagine that you're holding the object in your hand. So if you're holding the object in your hand, let's say that you have this shape right here. Okay, you want to find out the area of this shape, which by the way is a cone and a hemisphere. Okay, so if you want to find out the area of this, what you're going to do is, so here I am holding this object in my hand. Now how many surfaces can I touch? I can touch the curved surface area of the cone. So that's one area that I need to find, the curved surface area. I can touch the hemisphere. Okay, so that means that's the other area that I need to find. It's right here. Okay, there you go. But the one surface that I can't touch is this. Okay, the base of the cone. Why? Because now the hemisphere is covering it. So that means, oops, sorry about that. That means when I'm now calculating the total surface area of this shape, I will not consider the area of a circle. Okay, so बस आंखें बंद करके formula नहीं इस्तेमाल करना है, थोड़ी अकल भी साथ साथ इस्तेमाल करनी है. Okay, and yeah, just watch out for these little things. So let's see what it says. It says the diagram shows a wooden bowl. It is made in the shape of a large hemisphere with a small hemisphere removed from the center. The diameter of the large hemisphere, as you can see, is 20 centimeter. The width of the rim of the bowl is 2 centimeter. Okay, show that the total surface area of the bowl is 364 pi centimeter square. Sorry. Now, first things first. Let's work out the radius of the larger hemisphere. So 20 upon 2, that's equal to 10 centimeter. Okay. Now, if I want to find out the radius of the inner hemisphere, so if the larger one is 10 right here, then the inner one will be 2 less than 10. Okay. So for the inner one, so I'll use small r to represent that. We'll do 10 minus 2, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 8 centimeter. Okay. Now, if you want to calculate the area, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do 2 pi r square. That means the surface area of the hemisphere, the bigger hemisphere, plus 2 pi r square, which is basically the surface area of the smaller hemisphere. Okay, and you're not going to leave it at that. plus the area of the rim. Okay, अभी rim पे बाद में आएंगे, पहले ये कर लेते हैं. So 2 pi r, which is 10 squared, plus 2 pi 8 squared. Now let's calculate the area of the ring. Now, if you think about it, this is basically what the bowl looks like from the top. Okay, so this region that you see in green is the rim. Now, if I want to calculate the area of the rim, that means I need to find out the area of the larger circle, and from it I need to subtract the area of the smaller circle. Okay, that will give me the area of the rim. So what I'm highlighting in blue is the area of rim. So area of rim will basically be equal to pi r square minus pi r square. Okay, capital R for area for the radius of the larger hemisphere, lowercase r for the radius of the smaller hemisphere. So pi into 10 square minus pi into 8 square. Okay, so let's write that over here. Pi into 10 square minus pi into 8 square. Okay, now if you work this out, so this becomes 200 pi, this becomes 64 into 2, that's 128 pi. 100 minus 64 is 36, so plus 36 pi. Okay, so let's work this out. 200 plus 128 plus 36 equals to 364 pi. And there you go. That's it. That's your answer. Okay, now let me see your questions. अल्लाह करे लेकिन जो बेचारे बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ रहे हैं. Okay, I have no idea what's going on. पूरी कौम चीफ जस्टिस के पीछे खड़ी है. सही बात है. Okay, now part B. Let's see what part B says. Part B says the bowl is made from wood. The mass of 1 centimeter cube of the wood is 0.74 grams. Calculate the mass of the bowl. Okay. Sir, please explain rim part again. Shabhai, देखें. So rim जो है वो basically thickness है. ठीक है? It's like the thickness of the circle which you have to calculate. Okay. So this radius is 10 centimeter. Okay, and this radius is 8 centimeter. How will you find out the area of the shaded region? What you have to do is you have to first calculate the area of the larger circle, and from it subtract the area of the smaller circle. Why did we take surface area of small hemisphere? We can't touch it. Well, can you not? If you have an open bowl, तो क्या आप अंदर हाथ नहीं डाल सकते? Of course you can touch it. Okay. देखो, the only time where you can't touch it is when it's covered. Like for example, if let's say this hemisphere was resting on top of a cylinder. So in this case, you can't touch the inner hemisphere, yes, and at the same time you can't touch this top of the cylinder. Okay. So in that case we would have ignored that. ठीक है? Okay, now here's part B. Part B says the bowl is made from wood. The mass of 1 centimeter cube of the wood is 0.74 grams. Calculate the mass of the bowl. Okay. Now, अब ये questions आपने note किया काफ़ी commonly आ रहे हैं when you have to convert centimeter cube to grams. So what we need to do is we need to first find out the volume, because we know that 1 centimeter cube of volume has a mass of 0.74 grams. Now, if I want to calculate the mass of the bowl, that means I need to find out the volume of the bowl. Okay. Now the question is, how do I get my hands on the volume of the bowl? So उसके लिए हम एक काम करते हैं, इस bowl को नीचे लेके चलते हैं. So here it is. All right. Now let's calculate the volume of the bowl. So theoretically, देखो, volume is pretty simple. If you have multiple shapes, then you keep on adding the volume of the multiple shapes. Okay, so if you have like a hemisphere and a cylinder, volume would be equal to hemisphere plus cylinder. If you have like a cone and a cylinder, so volume would be equal to volume of cone plus volume of cylinder. So here you have something that's been removed. So if I want to calculate the volume, so what I'll do is I'll calculate the volume of the big hemisphere, and from it I'll subtract the volume of the small hemisphere. So since it's a hemisphere and volume of a sphere is 4 upon 3 pi r cube, okay, so that's something that will be given to you. Okay, so 4 upon 3 pi r cube, will then become 2 upon 3 pi r cube, and bear in mind that the radius will be 10, and as far as the small hemisphere is concerned, the radius of that is 8. So 2 upon 3 into pi into 8 cubed. Okay, if you work this out and if you do it correctly, so this becomes 2000 upon 3 pi. This becomes 8 cube is what? Okay, I can't do that mentally, sadly. Into 2 divided by 3. So 1024 upon 3. 1024 upon 3 pi. If you subtract this, you have 976 upon 3 pi. Okay, so this is the volume of the bowl. It's not the final answer, by the way. That means now we know what goes over here. So what goes over here is 976 upon 3 pi. Okay, and now it's just a matter of cross multiplying. So I'm going to do just that. 976 divided by 3 into 0.74 into pi. So we're looking at 7. Make sure to read the question. कहीं उसने ये तो नहीं बोला हुआ कि give your answer correct to the nearest gram or in kilograms or something like that. So it doesn't say that. So that means the answer is the final answer. So x is 756.33. So x becomes 756 grams. And there you go. That's your final answer. Okay, now let's do the next question. The next question says, another bowl is mathematically similar to the first bowl and is made from the same type of wood. Okay. The total surface area of the second bowl is 546 pi centimeter square. Calculate the mass of the second bowl. So can you explain which volume have you found by finding the difference? So I found the volume of the bowl. Okay, because देखो पहले ये एक solid hemisphere था, इसमें से आपने एक छोटा hemisphere निकाल लिया. So what's left is the thickness basically. Okay, so how will you calculate the thickness? Volume of the bigger hemisphere minus the volume of the smaller hemisphere. Okay. Now this is the last question, and then we'll call it a day. So this also is a 3-mark question. That means there's a decent amount of working that's required. So it says another bowl is mathematically similar to the first bowl and is made from the same type of wood. The total surface area of the second bowl is 546 pi centimeter cube. Now, since we're talking about area and we're talking about mathematically similar, so immediately write this down. Okay, A1 upon A2 equals to L1 upon L2, the whole thing cubed. Okay. Now, since you have the two areas, okay, so area of the first bowl was, we had to prove it, 364 pi. So let's take that, 364 pi divided by, sorry, it's not cube, I just realized it's actually square. Okay, it's not cube, it's square. Divided by 546 pi equals to L1 upon L2, the whole thing square. Now what this will do is this will allow us to find out the ratio of the lengths. Now why do we need the ratio of the lengths? Because if I want to find out the mass, I need to find out the volume as well. Why? Because जो हमारे पास ratio है वो volume is to mass का है, ठीक है? Yeah, volume is to mass का हमारे पास ratio है. So V1 upon V2 is equal to L1 upon L2, the whole thing cubed. So if I simplify this, if I do 364 divided by 546, so here's what I get. L1 upon L2 squared is equal to what? Is equal to 2 upon 3. Okay, that means if I make L1 upon L2 the subject, here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at square root of 2 upon 3. Okay, and leave it as square root of 2 upon 3 only. Why? Because you don't want to round it off too soon. Now let's work out the volume. Now our shape, our bowl, we know what the volume of that is. It's 976 upon 3 pi. So 976 upon 3 pi is V1 divided by V2, which we don't know, equals to L1 upon L2, which is square root of 2 upon 3, the whole thing cubed. Now what this will do is this will allow you to find out the volume of the other sphere, which is mathematically similar. Now if you cross multiply, let's see what do we get. 976 divided by 3 into pi, okay, divided by, now make sure that you're using your calculator very smartly over here. You don't want to sort of break this down, just do it directly in your calculator. Now, after cross multiplying, I'll tell you what I've done. What I've done is this, and I've done it exactly as it is in my calculator. Okay, so I don't end up rounding it off too soon. So ये मैंने अपने कैलकुलेटर में किया. Okay, ये करने के बाद जो मुझे वॉल्यूम मिली है वो मिली है 1877.65 centimeter cube. Now we know that if you want to find out the mass, all you have to do is multiply the volume by whatever the mass is of 1 centimeter cube, which is 0.74. So now I'm going to multiply it by 0.74, and if you do that correctly, so what you're looking at is this 1389.46, which you can round off and write it as 1389 grams. And there you go. That's your final answer. Actually, if you round it off correct to 3 significant figures, तो पता है क्या होगा? ये होगा 1390. Yeah, 1390 grams. And there you go. That's it. That's the final answer. And the final answer as well as the end of today's stream. Okay, now sir, I think I saw you in Zanomatics ki stream. No, that's not possible because he lives in Lahore. Thank you. Sir, only need help in the last step. Solve worksheet मिल जाएगी आपको. ठीक है. Okay, say thank you to Sir Zain for me. Sir, why have minus 10 by 8 in part A? Part A, minus 10 by 8. Okay, I get it. So basically 10 was the radius of the larger hemisphere, okay? And we wanted the radius of the inner hemisphere, which is why we subtracted 2, okay? Alright, so that's it. Next stream jo hogi, wo AdMaths ki hogi. I think it's tomorrow. I've shared the schedule, okay? And it is on velocity vectors, okay? Constant velocity. So that's it. Take care, everyone. Allah Hafiz.